Is it live now? Yes, we are live now. Yay. Okay, this is my first time being a co host on here, so everybody bear with me. I am Danielle, written in the Star Wars on TikTok, written in the SW on Instagram, and Danny S394 on Twitter because I like to be chaotic and not have the same name anywhere. Anyway, I'm here to act as co host for a very special all women and femme panel about Star Wars. Yay! Not everybody who's going to be on the panel is with us yet, but I'm very excited to have Brooke and Nedra here with me. And just want to first thank my twin, Chris, Star Wars lawyer, and the Podruns podcast for being the overarching hosts for this panel. They have generously offered us this space to talk about whatever the hell we want to. And I think that that's really cool. And I'm excited to do that. So this episode is going to kind of focus around our experiences as women and femmes in the Star Wars fandom, good, bad, everything in between, and just whatever else we want to talk about too. And Brooke, do you want to start off by introducing yourself?
I sure can. Hi, I'm Brooke. I'm on the internet as _bdazzler_ pretty much everywhere except for Twitch because it doesn't let me start a username with an underscore. So that's B__Dazzler. Yeah, I talk about Star Wars and other things that I like. Happy to be here.
Yay. And Nedra?
Yeah, hi, I'm Nedra. I'm Nedra Loves Cosplay on TikTok and Nedra Loves Jedi everywhere else. I'm a Ahsoka cosplayer. Usually, I've been doing just sort of like Star Wars analysis and a lot of droids rights content recently. That's been a passion of mine. I forgot last summer I went really hard about that last July, and so that like since we went really crazy with that little past few episodes of Mandalorian, I found my place with that again, and so I came back to life with the droids rights. So
And a fellow Chrysanthemum lover too.
oh yeah.
I love that.
Casual chrysanthemum in the background.
Yeah, just hanging out with my cute little family, my tribe of 3 and some galactic babies too.
I was about to say this was one of the Target Galactic babies. I love that.
Amazing.
Here, we were just introducing ourselves and saying where everyone can find us. So if you want to hop on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Kier, Mandalorian. You can find me on TikTok, Twitter, or Instagram.
Yeah. And Kier's also a huge Rebels fan, ultimate Hera defender.
Yes, to my dying day. I love Star Wars Rebels, especially Hera. She's my girl.
Yay. I also forgot to ask you, what are your favorite Star Wars eras? That was supposed to be a part of the intro question. So whoever wants to start first. Mine is the Rebellion era. That's my favorite.
I just forgot to mention I'm a Thrawn girly too. That's like a whole thing.
I love that for you.
Yeah, so I'm going to be absolutely fighting for my life when Ahsoka drops because I'm an Ahsoka girly and a Thrawn girly. And it's going to just be... I'm going to have a lot of fun, but it's going to be a chaotic kind of fun. But yeah, I guess I could say my favorite era is now. Whatever this era is this current time, the live action, I guess I don't want to say sequels era, but like whatever this era is, what would you call now?
What are they calling it? The New Republic?
The Rise of the New Republic and the First Order.
Yeah.
I would say now is
there.
Yeah. The sort of like, let's fill in the blanks, shove in, like, let's caulk the spaces, caulk the gaps, and then you can go back and rewatch stuff and you've got all this new context kind of era. Like I'm living for this. So yeah, this is my favorite era kind of.
I love that.
Love that. What about you, Brooke?
That's so hard. I've always been like an original trilogy kind of girly. So, but like I feel like now that kind of encompasses like the original trilogy, but also like all the Rebellion stuff. Like I love Rebels, but I also love The Mandalorian. And just, yes. is my answer. But I also love the sequels. So like it's so hard to choose.
Yeah.
I feel that. There's something in it for everybody in every little era, right? So it's hard to choose. I will say my current favorite era, like right now, is High Republic, because I'm just, especially after the High Republic panel at Star Wars Celebration and everything that's coming out, I'm just super hyped about it. I'm also a KOTOR girly, like not necessarily Darth Revan, but I love Knights of the Old Republic and I love that era, even though it's like Legends and all that. But so I'm excited about anything like that.
We have a group chat, and anytime someone brings up Knights of the Old Republic, Kira's runs, and they always count. What can we talk about? Yes, I love that. So let's go on to some of the questions. What made you want to be a part of this discussion today? Because like I said earlier, Kira, before you came on, I was saying that this episode is kind of going to be focused around our experiences as women and femmes in the Star Wars fandom. But that doesn't have to be all that it's about. We can obviously have fun and talk about Star Wars just as much as the next person. And we shouldn't have to be held back from whatever we want to discuss. But when you were asked to be on this panel today, what kind of made you want to be a part of the discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime somebody talks about women of Star Wars, again, like I'm right there. I think being part of the online social media, online fandom is difficult. As women and femmes, we're almost triggered by certain things. You know, you're like conditioned to like instantly defend certain people, or you know, even when you talked about being like a sequels fan, like people just instantly online might tear you apart for saying that. And you know, there's like exactly, like, and so you want to be like, oh, I like Empire Strikes Back and like safe answers, and that's not fair, right? Like you should be able to love what you love. There's so much in the Star Wars universe to love. So anytime there's like a safe space or like an opportunity for me to promote or talk or like encourage women and femmes to talk about that, I get really passionate about it. So I jumped at the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, for me, I made a TikTok video a few months ago about the way that I had noticed over the past couple of years that women and femmes are often treated in the fandom, not just by the typical toxic fanboys, but by people we regularly engage with as well, and who might not even realize what they're doing. And so that's just something I've just become really passionate about, because I saw that resonate with a lot of people, and I'd had a lot of people tell me about that. And I realized that there's not many spaces we have that we don't create for ourselves, that it's just us talking to each other, that it's just, you know, women and femmes getting to talk together. And I feel like there's a certain amount of like kind of peace in that, and like unrestrict or not having to restrict ourselves or worry about what might be said or what we can say. And so I was really excited to have this opportunity as well.
But plus, you all are just awesome, and I just get to talk to you.
Just getting to talk like this. It's exciting. I think I've never gotten to. Oh, sorry.
Go.
Well, this was about you, Nedra. I was going to say I've never gotten to speak with you in person before, or you know, at the same live time. So I was really excited about that too.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, no, it's oh no. Oh, sorry. My stream went out a little. Yeah, no, it's been a long time since I've done one of these too. And it's just been, I don't know. This was a topic that I was like, oh, this is something I actually usually don't get to talk about. I don't know, because I have had a weird experience as a woman in the Star Wars fandom, because as an Ahsoka cosplayer, I kind of have had a very insulated experience, because people are very protective of Ahsoka. Yeah. And so by proxy, I've kind of had a very like protected experience. So I haven't experienced, like, knock on wood, a lot of negativity. So like, I trust me, I'm aware of the experience that I've had compared to a lot of other femme and like women in the Star Wars space. Also, I'm very conflict averse. I go out of my way to avoid confrontation and antagonizing people. It's just something that I don't have the time. I only have so many hours in a day. Like I'm not I'm not arguing.
Yeah.
I just don't have it in me. I admire y'all that do. I admire y'all that can. I got your back as far as I've got them, but like I oh I admire and like respect the crap out of y'all that have the energy to do it. But yeah, there's a lot of the toxicity and stuff that I didn't realize that wasn't the entire fandom. For a long time, I thought that was the whole Star Wars fandom. And it wasn't until I saw like, oh, there is a whole like fun, like meme, like let's have fun and like be cute and like I don't know, there's like a happy, fun, positive side of the Star Wars fandom. And I was telling a girlfriend of mine about this like literally a few days ago, where I was like, we have fun. It's like a slumber party at 4 a.m. where we're just on Twitter being silly, watching episodes. Like it's a good time. Like you don't have to be mad about stuff. Like you can acknowledge things or camp and have a good time about it. Like I don't know. It's a big part of watching things is the company you watch things and consume media with. And like it that greatly affects the way you consume stuff and the way you feel about things. And I'm on a tangent, but like, I don't know.
No, you're
What
so
was the
right.
question?
No, you answered the question. You answered the question. I liked what you said about, you said that you're not very confrontational and you go out of your way to avoid it. I respect that because that is like protecting your peace, protecting your enjoyment of this thing. And if you don't want to or you don't have time to engage with that, like don't, because it's a lot of times not worth it either. So respect goes both ways, I think, there.
It totally does. The shitty thing is that, like, you could also do that, and then people get mad at you for not, like, speaking up. Like, I feel like sometimes as a woman or a femme, like, they're like, oh, you're just a girl enjoying everything. I bet you like Kylo Ren, too. You know, like, and it's just unnecessary stuff that, like, if a male was just like, yeah, I just love Star Wars, and I don't want to, like, argue about it, I don't know if they would necessarily get that kind of confrontation.
Yeah.
So it's tough being like a female creator. Sorry.
And
go ahead.
also for a lot of guys, it's just they'll argue just for the sake of arguing, and it's just an argument for them. And for a lot of minorities, like it's not just an argument. Like it's like this is actually like we're debating about something that's a lot deeper than that. And it's like they don't get that.
Yeah. It's like hypotheticals to them, and it's like, no, this is like real people's lives.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't affect you doesn't mean it doesn't affect other people. I feel like it's hard to find that happy medium, and I feel like since I've been, especially like actually like active in the community and like posting online and being like a creator or whatever you want to call it, I feel like I've grown over time to like know when to choose my battles, and like sometimes I still get sucked into it even though I shouldn't, but like it is really hard to decide like what's worth it and what's not. My favorite tactic though is just immediately deleting someone's comment, so then when they go back to be like, oh, did she respond, and then they just can't even find their comment. That's like my favorite way.
Brooke, you do a good job too of like being like, not, I don't want to say playing dumb, but like, you know, just like not antagonizing them, but just being like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, you know, like just like neutralizing the argument. And I appreciate that about you.
Yeah,
also,
I get that sometimes. Hello.
Hi, Cody.
Hi, guys.
Welcome.
So sorry for coming in late.
No, you're good.
I'm here.
Kari, you don't need an introduction, but if you want to introduce yourself anyway.
I need more followers. No, so real quick, Extaria on TikTok and Twitter, Kari Skywalker on Instagram. I do Star Wars mostly, but all types.
Oh, we've had lots of technical issues today. Kari froze right in the middle of a wave. But that's okay. Star Wars Tia on Twitter and TikTok is Kari, and I'm sure she'll be back in a minute. But oh, there she is. Maybe. Kari, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now. I don't know what happened.
Okay, yeah, your stream just cut out for just a little bit, but
okay. All right. Okay, we're back.
Really quickly, what is your favorite Star Wars era? For Kari. Maybe. Maybe not. Okay.
She just froze on this.
I just confounded her. I don't know what's happening. But really quickly, we will just carry on from the questions and if
Carry
Kari can
on.
hear- Yes, carry on.
Hey, hey,
Hey.
Nedra, the
Okay.
queen of puns.
Yeah. Okay. What this we kind of answered this already, but what has your relationship with the Star Wars fandom been like over the years? I'll go first. 'Cause I've been a Star Wars fan my entire life, but I never really engaged with the fandom until The Last Jedi came out, and that was because I watched the movie and I was like, this was such a great movie. I want to see how excited everyone else is. And I got on Twitter and I was like, oh,
Yep.
oh, not everyone is as excited as I am, which is fine, But that was my first time where I was like, oh, people don't think the same way I do about Star Wars all the time. And then when I really got thrown into it was probably like 2021 when I first made my TikTok. And that has had its ups and downs for me. Extreme highs because I've gotten some really great opportunities and I've met people who will probably be lifelong friends. And I've gotten to meet them in person and it just really has changed my life. But it's also had like some really, really rough days because of being on Star Wars social media and dealing with the nastier sides of the fandom. And unfortunately, that has sometimes like changed my relationship with Star Wars a bit. Not completely, but sometimes it does, where I forget why I love Star Wars and I have to just kind of take a break and then go watch the movies, go watch the shows. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is where my love for it came from. But I was just curious how that has been for the rest of you.
I feel like I have a very similar experience because I started to like engage more in the fandom when The Last Jedi came out as well. I like walked out of the theater and I was like, that was the greatest thing I've ever seen. And then I immediately ran to Tumblr to look up Kylo Ren content. And then funny enough, like I didn't touch Tumblr again until The Rise of Skywalker came out, because when I logged back in for more Ben Solo content, I was like, oh, the last time I was on here was when The Last Jedi came out. But that's another story. But yeah, I was very surprised. I didn't really start to engage actively in the fandom though until probably like early 2020-ish, like when Star Wars TikTok, I guess, really started to take off. I spent maybe like half of that year just like watching and being like a spectator, and then I finally started like posting my own videos. And it's definitely been an interesting experience over time, because it's been like 3 years now to see how like the community has grown in very positive ways, I think, overall. But you also get to see the downsides of all of that. I feel like TikTok and Twitter, all of the different social medias are very different places. Like they have very different vibes.
Yeah.
I feel like I've over this time now, I've like curated my space to be way more positive. And I think also like learning when to engage and when not to engage with that kind of people has helped a lot. I also like stopped talking about Star Wars online for like a good 6-8 months.
Yeah.
And that was a really nice break, because I was like, oh, I can talk about other TV shows that I like and other things that I like. And that was a really nice break. And then so coming back in the last like couple months to talking about Star Wars has been very nice. So like if you need a break, definitely take a break.
Yeah. Was it The Last of Us that you were talking about instead?
Last of Us Last of Us and House of the Dragon really got me. I was like, oh, I am not going to think about Star Wars at all for the next 6 months.
Yeah. What
For
about
me, like
anyone else?
when I was a spectator like Brooke as well. During the pandemic, I was frustrated that I didn't have any friends around me who really understood this side of me, and I was very kind of a closeted Star Wars fan for most of my life, strictly because I didn't want to engage. I had seen the negative side of the fandom already, and I just didn't think that there were women like me who liked it and wanted to be positive about it. I'd heard about the fandom menace. I just stayed away. But during the pandemic, I saw even some of the lovely ladies on this podcast, and I saw some of your content, and I realized very quickly that there are more of us, there are so many, and not just women in femmes, but like other people who, and it was just a very eye-opening and exciting moment for me, especially during the dark days of the pandemic. So I just threw myself in and have, yes, ups and downs, but I'm really grateful for the lifelong friends that I've made, for the conversations I've had, and just the opportunity to be more authentic. And it's scary sometimes to talk about what you like, which sounds so dumb, oh my God, I can't make a video about this character because XYZ, and I hate that. And so I think it's just important to, what they say, like, be the person that you wish you had when you were younger. And even when I was at Celebration, I met so many people who were just like, oh, I'm inspired to be positive, I'm inspired to I don't have to talk negative. I don't have to engage in that. And it's nice. I'm grateful to be a part of a community that can uplift people instead of tearing them down.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've been kind of a Star Wars fan for a long time. Always just kind of warm about it for a while. And it was during the pandemic that I casually saw Ahsoka for the first time, and I was like, that sassy little girl kind of looks like me. And then I started watching, and I realized no, she also kind of is a lot like me. There's a lot of her story that reminds me of me, and there's a lot of me I see in her, and I can relate a lot to this. And there was just a lot of, it's yo, the show kind of bangs. And then it was just I don't know, I got sucked super into Clone Wars, and then it was I don't know, it was what I needed during the pandemic to sort of connect me to, I don't know, dude, I don't know what it was. I don't know what they put in that show, but yeah, it was what I needed to take me from casual fan to completely sucked in. And it was just what I needed also to come to terms with the fact that okay, dude, if this is the rest of our lives, if lockdown is our reality, if they open the world up again, I don't want to go back to having to pretend to be some I'm a serious person who doesn't I'm not passionate about things, and I don't squeal and no, we're not doing that again. I get super stoked about stuff. I'm hyper fixated on stuff. I'm that weird I'm weird. I'm weird. I wear this stupid hat. It's I'm gonna be that person. I don't care, bro. I was I'm gonna go all in on this. And I haven't looked back since. And before I got into the fandom, I chilled back in the cut, kind of like I do. I watched and I saw what are inflammatory topics, what sets people off, what's because I don't just walk into things guns blazing. I kind of want to see what things are. And then when I came in, I kind of knew the vibes, and then that's kind of how I went in. And man, I've never just felt more at home in a space than I did when I'll just let me in. And I kind of love you guys, kind of a lot. And
we love you.
Me too.
It's kind of lit here. I don't know. I don't know. I'd say like it's just like it's one of those things that for so long it wasn't a space that was inviting for people that looked like us, but it like the brave few that came before us, I'm always going to be grateful for, because like yeah, now there are people like us who are just like, oh hey, oh your feet are hurt, oh sad, sorry. I mean, not like me, because like I said, I'm not gonna be the one, but like I think just by existing and by continuing, like we've got the Ray movie and all that, like we've got so much happening, and now things are getting more like visibly like diverse, and the stories are getting richer, and like it's just, oh yeah, give me more of that, give me rich stories. Oh, everybody go back and rewatch the Book of Boba Fett. Okay.
Oh man. So for me, I've been a fan uh since I was a little kid. I was 8 years old. I'm 41 now. Um and my first trilogy was the O3 trilogy. That's when I fell in love with Vader. But obviously around that time, there was no fandom to go to because there was no socials like that. Then the prequels came out. That was a time because people were not happy with the movies, and I absolutely loved those three movies. I fell in love with Anakin, fell in love with Hayden, and it was a hard time trying to talk about it because people came at the prequels very hard on on the media, the fans. It was crazy times trying to defend yourself for loving the movies. So I stopped with the fandom. Like I just became a fan of Star Wars. That's it. I never engaged with the fandom again and stuff. Maybe like 2 3 years before the pandemic, I never got into Tumblr or Twitter or anything like that, so I never engaged the fandom there. I started engaging the fandom on YouTube. Unfortunately, the first video that got me into it was Star Wars Theory. So yeah. And but that was because he was doing the theories and he was talking about Star Wars with love and everything.
Yeah.
This was before the sequels, by the way. So
Yeah.
he was still like, okay. But then the sequels came out. And I kind of fell into that pipeline of, because I was like, okay, he's a big Star Wars personality. He knows what he's talking about. So I kind of fell in that same line that of his way of thinking, because I didn't have anything else. I didn't have any other anywhere else to look towards to or to talk to or anything. So it was just that, whatever was going on in YouTube. Then the pandemic came and I got on TikTok. TikTok's absolutely saved my love for Star Wars. Um, Before that, I hadn't seen the Clone Wars or Rebels. Um, but I was like, all right, well, now I'm home, nothing to do. I'm gonna do a rewatch of all the Star Wars because the Mandalorian was gonna come on. And I was like, I want to know what's gonna happen. I want to know about these characters because I heard that previous characters from the animated series were gonna be there. So you know what? I'm gonna do a rewatch of everything. That was it. That's all it took, and I got obsessed again with Star Wars. And then I finally engaged in a fandom that was positive, a fandom that was inviting, like said. And but then of course the negativity also came. So my pettiness, of course, won the best of me. So of course I went after them too. Because I have
Honey,
to.
you're so good at going after people. You have so much energy for it. I respect it. I've got your back, but like I'm cheering you on.
That queen, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the yin and yang right here. I'm like, I can't do it. I ain't the one. She is though.
I can't. I hate bullies. Because I was bullied when I was little too, and I just hate people being disrespectful for no reason and coming at people that are coming at people that are just trying to enjoy themselves in something, and then somebody just coming to try to like be complete asshole about it. I was like, nah, what are we doing? Like this is not what we're gonna do. So of course, as a woman, anytime you try to speak out, speak up, it gets like bombarded with the bros that I saw from the beginning and stuff. And but thankfully, like we keep saying, there's more of us. The community came together, and every time it happened, they would come and defend 100%. So that made me feel so relieved and so hard, like my heart was full, because I know that I wasn't in this alone.
Yeah.
We weren't in this alone as women, as femmes, in the fandom, as a Latina person as well, POC person, Black person. It was good to know that we weren't going to have to face all of these, this bigotry and this racism and this disrespectfulness alone, you know? Um, I'm grateful. That's one thing positive that came out of COVID, by the way. It's just you guys, the community, that we were able to get together in this way. And yeah, I'm better for it. I'm happy here and better for it. So yeah.
Oh, sorry, Danielle.
Oh no,
no, wait. I think 3 of us.
100%.
Yeah.
I was trying to not acknowledge that, but I too started from the pipeline of theory, because I'm an ex-film bro. I'm a reformed film bro, literally a film school dropout, and that was one of the first things that like made me start taking Star Wars seriously. Was like those videos that made me like, oh, so there's like lore like that, and then like I kind of started taking Star Wars seriously, and then I was like, oh, icky, like, yeah, no. So, okay, I'm glad we're acknowledging that. But yeah, no. Then it got real musty real fast, and I was just like, okay, I can't do. Can't live
Yeah,
like
I had to leave.
Yeah.
Kier, what were you gonna say?
No, I mean, essentially the same. I think we've all started on places where maybe they weren't so good, like the theory pipeline, or some other creators who aren't, or just don't have the perspectives that we do. And I think that's really important, because we got here, right? And how many people are watching us, or the content that we create, or the content that our colleagues create? And it's just really important. Nedra, I think you said at the very beginning, like it just, the company that you're with dictates how you can, consume something and how you might feel about something. And it's important that there's all sorts of voices and all sorts of perspectives, and diversity in front of the camera, but also behind the camera, and people like, making content, and the more of that we have, I think the better off future. Like, what does Yoda say? They are what we are, what they grow beyond, right?
Yeah.
I didn't just mean Darcy Yoda, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
That's important.
Yeah. I also want to go off something that Nedra said about how something about the Clone Wars, whatever they put in the Clone Wars, really brought my obsession. I mean, first it was Rogue One that brought my obsession of Star Wars even higher, and then the Clone Wars brought it even more. But it too made me feel like after COVID, I'm never gonna hide like what I love again, because I was like that too. Like, I was a casual Star Wars fan, was afraid of like really bringing it up. I asked my boyfriend the other day, what did he know about my Star Wars obsession when we first met before COVID? And he was like, well, I remember when I brought up Attack of the Clones, or you brought up Attack of the Clones, and I said, it's gonna make so many people mad. He said, is that the boring one? And I got so mad. I was like, boo, wrong opinion.
Tomato.
He's reformed.
Brooke, hold back, Brooke.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'll reel it in.
He's reformed. It's okay. He's seen the error of his ways. But yeah, during COVID, I hadn't thought about it, but the way you said, if we ever get out of this, I'm not holding myself back anymore. I'm going to enjoy what I enjoy and not care what people think about it. And a large part of that, this carries on to the next question, is because I did find such a good community of like-minded Star Wars fans, and more importantly, women and femmes, because before I met all of you and other people on Star Wars TikTok and social media, I didn't really personally know any other female Star Wars fans. I've seen them when I would go to like the midnight releases or go to the
Movies, yeah.
movies and stuff. They always intimidated me because I don't know if any of you were like this at school, but you kind of are structured as a female Star Wars fan to view other female Star Wars fans as not real Star Wars fans because it's like a competition of who can be the best Star Wars fan. That's how it was in high school for me. And I hate that when I think back about it. And so they always intimidated me. And then when I got on TikTok and met all of you and so many other wonderful people, I realized like these are just like-minded people who share the same love for this thing with me. And I just wondered if you all had the same experience or if you had different experiences, what that was like for you.
Yeah, I never knew any in the wild like at all. My background mostly was in like the punk and hardcore scene and stuff, and like I never, I had not like other girl syndrome hard, like real bad, for a long time, and once I grew out of that, I stopped thinking about other girls' interests. I stopped thinking about what other women were interested in. It was just one of those things where like Star Wars was so far from like my brain as something that I was interested in. Like I'm so serious when I said I didn't think about Star Wars at all as like a serious thing to be interested in until the pandemic, and I like saw Clone Wars and I was like, oh, that little girl, like she kind of like, what is this child? And then all of a sudden it was just like something sparked, and then it was just like all of a sudden something changed, and then I decided I was going to just like do a deep dive in the entire sort of like backstory of Star Wars, and then connecting and weaving everything together, and then rewatching the original trilogy after watching Clone Wars is the wildest kick in the teeth. Like I cried so freaking hard at the end of Return of the Jedi after watching Clone Wars the first time. It is sick. It is insane. Like it's just one of those things like it's so hard to explain to people who aren't Star Wars fans. Like what are you guys doing all day? Like what are you Star Wars Celebration? There's a whole like convention. What are y'all doing for 4 days?
It's so humbling to explain to people that it was so humbling to be like, yeah, I'm going to England for a Star Wars convention.
So what are you gonna do the whole time? Like,
like yes, Star Wars.
Star Wars.
My friend was like, there are other women who like that too. Like, you have friends who like that? And I was like, yes, it's hard. I get it.
Harris sent me a customs. Yeah, like imagine every time I try to bring a lightsaber anywhere, like trying to explain to someone at the airport that, oh, this is like I stopped. I'm just like, it's a flashlight. It's a flashlight for me. That's what it is. Like I've stopped trying to explain like it's a lightsaber, it's a flashlight. But yeah, no, so it's just like there's it's just sort of like now I get kind of excited whenever I see like female Star Wars, but it's not even like a gender thing anymore, because like at this point it's just like it's so disappointing to meet any Star Wars fan and just be like, oh, you like Star Wars, and just find out they're like extremely casual about it. And just being like reminded of how aggressively over the top I am about it.
Oh god, I feel it so hard. I feel like if one thing good came out of the pandemic is like we were talking about earlier, like not putting up with like masking, I guess, especially for like my other fellow neurodivergent girlies, because now it's like I've never been chill about anything ever, but I was really good about like hiding it in public. I can't do that anymore. I have lost the ability to like function. It's so bad too, because like I'm trying to sit here and have a normal conversation, but I also want to be like, hi Beth.
Hi Beth.
Bye.
But I also want to be like, so I was on Tumblr the other day and I read this fanfic about Din Djarin. Like, that's what I want to talk about, and I feel so bad because it's not like I like don't care about what my other my real friends want to talk about. But it's like I feel like I can't contribute to the conversation anymore because I'm so deranged in this fictional world. It's fine.
Beth, welcome.
How's
I'm
it
so
going?
excited to have you on here.
I'm so
Hi.
excited I could make it. Sorry, I haven't figured out the lighting situation in new apartment yet, so I'm like shifting around. I apologize. How are you guys?
We're great. We're great. We were just talking about how finding a community of like-minded Star Wars fans, women, femme, and otherwise, has changed our perspective on Star Wars and our own lives. But so excited to have you here. Do you want to quickly tell people where they can find you?
Oh, sure. You can find me at variations of the following. Mara.j.skywalker on TikTok, Mara.j.skywalkers. There are multiples of us apparently on Instagram, and then Mara_J.Walker on Twitter.
Yay! Yeah, excellent. Had I interrupted anybody earlier that was going to speak?
No.
So, go ahead, Cardi.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that concerning other fans, being around other fans, I guess it would be like my cousins, because my older cousin was the one that introduced us to Star Wars when we were little. Like, he literally told us, listen, you're gonna sit down and we're gonna watch Star Wars. I don't want to hear nothing. You're gonna like it. I was like, okay, no problem. But again, it was just my cousins aren't as, they like Star Wars, but it's not something that we would sit down and like nerd out about, because they're just like casual. Oh, I like Marvel. I like the superhero stuff. I like, they just like it, but they're not obsessed with it like I am now. And then other than that, I never really, again, the fandom did not exist for me anywhere around me growing up, so again, I was just like, oh, there's Vader. I love Vader. That's all I always, kept. It was only all about Vader all the time. That was it. Like a t-shirt or, a little decal or a picture in my car. Cause I'm obsessed. But but it was never like that. And then, so now coming in here and being able to, find other women and femmes that I can talk to, because it was always like, this is a man's world, this is Star Wars is for the guy nerds. Girls aren't interested. And I always got that talk when dating and stuff, like, oh, you like Star Wars? I can't believe that. Oh my God, you're like one of the few girls. I've never met somebody. Oh my God, and you look sexy and you like Star Wars? I'm like, ew, what? What the hell does that mean? I'm like, okay, no, bye. I was like, okay, no, never mind. Unmatch. But yeah, so it's like such a relief. I'm like, guys, we can talk about it, and I don't have to have no type of gaslighting or condescending conversations with dudes about, what I love. So yeah.
I think you bring up a good point too, that like it was marketed to men, even Lucasfilm, I love them, but like they didn't have female characters. They thought only boys liked it. I mean, even now female merch is hard to find sometimes, unless it has Grogu on it. And it's just difficult sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, I get that it's hard, but it's nice to see that female fans are having characters, having people, nothing against Vader, but that are more like them. Oh, like Nedra, you're talking about like seeing Ahsoka and seeing yourself on screen. Like, that's huge. Hera is a mom. Like, you know what I mean? Like, well, yeah. But I just think that's really, it goes back to the diversity and like needing multiple different perspectives, multiple different kinds of characters, because that's what the galaxy is. We're diverse, and it's important. Yeah, that's my soapbox. I'll step off of it. Sorry.
No, I love it. Speaking of having more female characters, and I think most importantly, more nuanced female characters, I think it's great that Beth joined us for this because the ultimate Nedra cosplayer.
Yeah.
I
Beth,
love her
you
so
had an
much.
amazing experience at Celebration cosplaying
Yeah,
as
I
Nedra.
did.
Oh my God.
It was really fun. I was more excited though to see all my friends and to meet everyone. Like that was the best part, in all honesty. It was just so much fun. So yeah, I hadn't planned to like cosplay all 4 days, but like things just happened. So I was like, okay, I will just thank God there was a washing machine at my hotel because I'm like not. I was there like every night at like midnight. I'm like, okay, let's do this. Yeah,
For those who
it's just
don't
so
know,
fun.
Beth
Go ahead.
cosplayed as Dedra, and Andy Serkis took a picture with her so that he could send it to what's the actor's name?
Denise.
Yeah.
Denise.
That's so amazing.
Wait,
I
you
love
watched
that
it
for you.
every night?
It's crazy.
How would it just hit
You're
that
still on
joy
that
bro? Iconic.
Damn right, he took
Yeah.
a picture because it was so freaking good. That cosplay was on point. So
Yeah, it really was. I see
all
your
the praises, all the praises.
Everybody's pictures with you. Look at this amazing because you looked so much like her. It was amazing.
Thank you. Thanks.
Beth and Denise are on first name basis. Beth out here.
When I met her, I felt so awkward though because I was like, I had made an offhand, not like an offhand comment, but I was like, oh, I was gonna have you sign my like iPad case because like Dedrick kind of helped me like get promoted at work, like this whole story that I still need to tell. And she was like, what? And I was like, oh, I'm like, it's kind of a long story, like it's kind of an inside thing. And she was like, I want to hear it. And I was like, you have a line. People behind her, like it's my line. Like I was like,
That's right, baby.
Oh, I love that for you.
Amazing.
She just has like the best attitude. It's just in person, obviously. Character or not character, outside of her character. Denise does. So.
That is so awesome. Oh my God, that's so cool.
I love that for you.
But Celebration is really like one of the talking just about like community and female fans is I think like one of the times you really get to like actually feel that palpable energy in the room and like actually have those deep conversations in person, which is something that I obviously because we're all so spread out and kind of as Kier was saying, like it's a relatively new thing for Star Wars to be marketed to women. And it's like, yeah, sometimes you'll have a couple friends, but I didn't have any fandom friends growing up. And so this has been like having this community and then finally getting to connect with people in real life was just the most incredible experience. And yeah, it's made a massive difference.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I mean, I don't love this, but I love that we can relate to this I feel like most of us didn't have fandom friends growing up. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. That's very sad, but also makes me very happy that we found each other and are able to be in a space like this and talk about it, whether we've been Star Wars fans since we were little or whether we have just come to the franchise in the past few years. I think that's a wonderful thing to be able to have this space now. But we were talking about not being able to hide our obsession. I literally have a tattoo.
I mean, if I was to show you my bag,
so when I try to hold it back when I'm around like my boyfriend's family because I'm like I really can't let them see how like weird I am. But when I got my tattoo and they were like, oh, what's this tattoo about? And I was like, how do I explain that this is about a bunch of animated characters? Oh, by the way, I also write fan fiction about them. No, I'm not saying that.
It's so creative. You're flexing your creativity. Like you're contributing to the artistic world. Like, yeah.
Speaking about geeking and fandoms, the only fandom like way I was able to nerd out was when I lived in Colombia. In Colombia they love anime, and there was this one called Captain Tsubasa and another one Saint Seiya, right? But my group of people that I chill with were all boys. It was just all boys that were into it, and I got into it. That was the only time I was able to nerd out about something nerdy, was with the group of guys over something that girls didn't like. And I was like, all right,
Mhm.
well, I guess I'm not a girl. I'm not your typical girl.
Yeah.
But that was the only time. But it was just all boys. Like I wasn't able to do it with other, other girls or and everything. So that was the only time. It was like 2 years that I was able to do that. Then after that, again, nothing around me, no fandom, no way to nerd out with anybody else or anything like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love this. This is everything to me.
Oh, me too. And like Nedra was talking about, I love that we're all equally obsessed and we have our own little things. Like I may not have had fandom friends growing up, but I had casual friends. And so when I was getting more and more into it, like for instance, when I read the Thrawn books, the Legends Thrawn books, and I wanted to talk to people about it, like my dad and my brother had it, they read them, and then I was talking about the lore and theories, and they didn't. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, I don't care as much as you, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It's nice having people who also care as much as you.
Yeah.
Obsess is the word.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was really wild too. I hadn't posted in forever, and then someone had posted something on Twitter about whatever about IG-12, and I literally sprung out of bed at like 6 a.m. The most raggedy I have ever looked on the
You look
internet.
fine. Are you crazy? You
I
look so nice. Please.
sprung out of bed and was like, this is me, you guys. This is my moment. And I'm like, let me tell you why you guys are thinking about this like organic beings. And this is like, it was so funny, the adrenaline that was pumping through me in that moment, because it's actually something that I realized I'd been thinking about since last July. And the fact that, like, also something that just bugs me about that whole situation is just that so often on Twitter, people talk like the writers don't think about things. Like people on Twitter are the only people who think about the things that they think about. And so people are just so flippant about, oh, they don't really think about stuff. It's like, okay, no, like seriously, like sorry. I'm really passionate about like this whole I could
I love
literally take over the stream for the next 2 hours talking about specifically droid rights and why IG-12. No, honestly, they had me hearing clown music at the end of the finale, but we're not going to do that. Everybody might not be caught up. Anyway, what were we talking about?
No,
Well,
but
I
this
think
is awesome that you're able to express that, because that's what we're
Yeah.
here for. And nobody's
Yeah.
gonna be like, oh my God, why is she saying that? Like, why she needs to calm down. No.
Right.
Talk about it,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
it's
we need a
exciting.
podcast episode just for that.
Oh my God. I would absolutely love it, because yeah, it's a whole thing. And I think it's actually a direction that they're going for. This is not a coincidence. Like the fact that that was a thing that came up in episode 6, this is not a coincidence. Also in the Book of Boba Fett, the fact that they brought up cybernetics and they had Thundercat as the guide doing all of that. Like this, like it's not a coincidence. They're talking about swapping out parts and having a whole droid bar where they're talking about their concerns about being replaced. And then IG-11, like, yeah, no, this is not. This is not. We're not coming by all this lightly, man. All of this is not light.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go.
I was gonna say, Nedra, I want a series. Yeah, I want a whole series about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Gladly, absolutely gladly. I do want to go on the record and say that I am not a droid builder. This has big like Charlie Day bird law energy. I am just a droid. I'm just a droid enthusiast. I am a droid philosopher. My big thing is just I'm learning a lot about like microcontrollers and microcomputers and all this sort of stuff, because I want to build modular instruments for music and stuff like that, not for robotics or anything like that, but it all kind of ties into sort of the same stuff. So that's why my brain's there right now. The end.
Yeah. That's
That's
awesome.
so interesting,
That is
though.
really cool, man.
I love
Yeah.
that.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is a quick vent session. It's not really I mean, I guess it is a question, but it's meant to let us air our grievances, if you will, with some parts of what we have to experience. And you don't have to partake if you don't want to, but you are more than welcome. What's one thing that irks you the most about the fandom regarding female and femme fans, characters, discussions, etc.? And I will go first. Because this can be a
Let's go,
difficult one to talk
Danielle.
about.
Good.
I hate it when men can thirst over female characters, and that kind of stuff they talk about never gets rubbed back in their face, either in a good way or a bad way, when they try to have serious conversations about those same characters later on. I hate it even more when the men who do those things turn around and question the depths of understanding women who thirst over male characters in a similar fashion have for the same characters. It's very hypocritical, and it happens all the time. All the time.
Yes.
God, I
Absolutely.
think about that all the time. I've talked about it with other people too, and I feel like Danielle, I've seen you talk about it, how and this isn't necessarily a just men thing, but I've noticed that it's more often than not men that kind of put women and femme creators in these one-dimensional boxes, and it's like, you really like this one thing? Cool. Every time there's a podcast about it, we're going to invite you on to talk about that one thing, and which is fine. I loved it. I will talk about Fallen Order all day, every day. But it's like, I feel like we get put in these boxes, or oh, she's this person who simps about the clones or simps about the Mandalorian. And then you want to have these more conversations about deeper conversations about the lore or whatever, or if you want to talk about something completely different, a different part of the fandom, it's like that isn't valued, I guess, as high, or it's like people forget about that. And it's like, oh no, you're I love being the simp, don't get me wrong. I will simp forever. But it's like, I'd also love to be recognized once in a while for the other stuff that I like to talk about,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One thing I want to point out about what annoys me with the fandom. Okay, two things. The first one is when we say something is not respected, but as soon as a man says it, is immediately recognized.
Yep.
Like we didn't say it before.
Yep.
Like we hadn't
Yeah.
been talking about it before. Like why? Why is it that I hate this because I always see this on Twitter. Like I see any of us saying something very relevant, especially concerning the woman in Star Wars, like with Padme and Satine, and like the whole issue right now with their names not being like an example is, oh, why is Padme and Satine's name not being mentioned? We have been screaming this forever. And then I see the guys coming in and saying the same thing, and it's like, oh my God, you're so right. It's so like, dude, we do you not see the other tweets from like months ago when we were saying the same thing? I understand that sometimes it's because of the following that a certain creator might have and stuff, but I don't like it. But it just feels like sometimes it's just we're being completely ignored and overlooked when we're trying to address something that it's really bothersome to us and problematic. And then the other thing is when you tell somebody something, they come at you disrespectful. Another guy, you talk to a man, you're trying to explain things to them, they're being disrespectful. Like, no, you're being, they come out of the face. But then a man comes and says the same thing I said, defending me, of course, and then completely change the tone. Like, oh, you know what? Maybe you're right. So why wasn't I right? Why is it that when he comes in and says the same thing, it now it's now you get it. So yeah, though that's infuriating. I hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate feeling like I have to credentialize myself. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys feel like before I make any sort of like argument or more like a cerebral, I have to, back when I was like doing like the Star Wars law stuff, I would put little like stipulations like on the screen, like to be like, this is why. And I'm like, it just be, and like a guy could just talk about the same thing and they'd be like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. And I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like if I don't credentialize myself or like stipulate things at the beginning of a video, people will either not listen to me or they'll deliberately misconstrue it because obviously they can't fathom that women have these complex ideas and may actually be smarter than them, which I know is really, really hard, or like no more, which I know is very, very hard for them to grasp, especially ego wise. But it's like, I was so done. That's why I like don't really like talking. I was like obsessed with like trying to figure out the Darksaber, and I was like, I stopped because I was like, I am so sick of having to like credentialize myself. Like I'm done.
Or just people like assuming that you don't know things if you don't say it in your video. Like,
oh my God. Yeah,
like
exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I understand. Like, it is too much to ask that someone who just comes across your video or tweet goes back and like looks at your whole history of stuff, because there's a lot there. I get that. But if it's something simple, like why are you automatically assuming that I don't know? And there are better ways to word that too. It's a better way to be like, oh, if someone goes like, oh, did you know this? Then that's fine because you are asking if I did know it or not. But if you like state it as like
actually
this, I know.
Yeah.
Actually,
I was like, actually,
I know.
as
It's hard because we're limited to, a certain time for videos. You can, you sometimes you only have 60 seconds or you only have 140 characters to get your thought out. And so you have to like find your shortcuts on how you want to say everything that you want to say. And I do also still sometimes put like little paragraphs. If I'm like, oh, I forgot to mention that, I'm going to put that on the screen so that when someone's watching and they're like, oh, she didn't mention this, you can be like, oh, she did think about it. So I think it goes with like the credentializing yourself. I noticed it a lot. Star Wars has definitely been like the harshest fandom that I've been a part of, but even like when I was talking about The Last of Us, if I didn't like explicitly say at the beginning of the video, I have played the video game, I inevitably get comments that were like, you should really play the video game. It's like,
oh my
you can go back to my TikTok and you can see the 85 other TikToks that I've made in this playlist talking about this goddamn game. Like, and I feel like it happens a lot with Star Wars, especially when you're talking about anything lore related or anything, even like story related. It's like, oh, you didn't mention this one time that this character did this thing, and it's like, yeah, I just didn't think it was necessarily relevant to the point I was trying to make in the video, and it's so exhausting.
Well, and sometimes I feel like it's not even them trying to like help you; it's them being like one-upping. Like, oh well, I know this, so I'm
exactly.
What?
For sure.
Yeah.
And
you can
generally
tell
those aren't.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, sorry. I was gonna say generally those aren't people who make videos either, and it's like,
right.
That's the thing. It's like, okay, well, hope you feel better about yourself.
Like user 276787. It's like no profile picture. I'm like, you come on and do this then.
Yeah. And you can usually tell when it's someone who's genuinely wanting to like share fun knowledge with you and someone who is just trying to catch you up on something or catch you out on something. And that just gets so frustrating and I know it doesn't just happen to women in femmes. I've seen it happen to lots of other people, but there's something particularly not necessarily menacing, but just, I don't know. There's something particularly off about it, I feel like.
Well, the majority of time that it does happen, it comes from men.
Yeah.
That and it's from men. It's not really, when I get to a woman trying to explain something to me, it's weird because I'm like, why are you doing the mansplaining thing? Or is them being nice about it, But guys, most of the time it's just like, no, by the way,
Yeah.
And the amount of comments.
Maybe you should read this. Maybe you should go watch this. I'm like, dude.
Okay. The amount of comments that I get in a video that's like, they'll include something like, oh, also this, and it's like, oh, if you watch to the end of the video, I say that. I literally say that. There has been so many times where I am like, watch the entire video, and the person will come back and be like, "Oh, sorry, I commented this before I got to it." I'm like, then why?
You shouldn't be allowed to comment unless you watch the whole video. I wish there was a way.
Yes. Oh my God.
One thing that I want to add that's frustrating as being a female or femme fan as well is seeing female characters that are not written maybe as a female would act what I'm trying to say is watching men write female characters and not doing it well, and then either being frustrated because you want to see female characters written well, or you want to support those female characters because they're female characters and you kind of not feel obligated, but you just want to promote that. But if they're not acting the way that a female would, or if there's just a lack of diversity in writing staff or whatever, I think it just gets a little complicated sometimes as a fan too. Yeah, that's all I'll say.
Well, I've seen a lot of people talk about how for a long time in Star Wars, and I think we're starting to get away from this, especially with the High Republic, but for a long time in Star Wars, female characters were written like one of two ways. And one of them was that their femininity or any typical femininity was completely stripped from them, and they were given more like masculine storylines that men could eventually relate to, or they were over-sexualized or hypersexualized. Yeah. And so that men could still not relate to them, but want something from them. And that's so true. I mean, I think in the end, we end up getting something from those characters anyway because of what the actors bring to them. I view that especially with Leia. Carrie Fisher brought so much to Leia that made us be able to relate to her, even though she was hypersexualized for large portions of the time that she was in the movies. But yeah, that can be really frustrating to see. We talked about ourselves being boxed in and what we can discuss, and you often see that on screen and on the pages as well with the characters. It's frustrating. But I feel like the High Republic is really getting away from that.
They're doing great.
Yeah, they're
no notes.
Amazing.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
Yeah.
We talked about how how men use liking a female character to justify not being misogynistic. Like the whole, I hate Rey, but I love Ahsoka. So clearly it's just like, I'm not misogynistic. Like, I hate that so much. I'm like, that's not an art. Like, don't pit female characters against one another. That's just stupid. But B, I think it's the dumbest argument.
So dumb. It's so dumb. And until Filoni said that, Ahsoka was more experienced than Luke. That was it.
Yes.
That was the extent of how much they like Ahsoka. That was the extent of how much they were a fan of Ahsoka.
When they didn't like her in the beginning either. And I see that we're having this conversation again with, with Omega. At Star Wars Celebration, one of the hosts for one of the stages, mad. He said some shit about Omega and at the Bad Batch panel, and it was really disheartening.
He was like,
"Wait, what?
Yeah,
good."
He told the room. He was like,
"He said,
raise your hand if you like Omega, and then raise your hand if you don't like her." And he was like, "I think that everything in season 2 was her fault."
Yeah.
What?
Did he? I was just like, boo.
Yeah.
Did he do that with all the characters or just Omega?
Just Omega.
Just Omega.
Yeah.
Literally just Omega. Yeah.
And so I was in the front row and I made eye contact with him and booed. And he saw me as I booed. I put my hands around my hand. I went, boo.
Good for you.
And he said something about how everyone's opinions are valid. And I said, not that opinion, Dave.
But it's funny because he was the same person that I think, I don't remember which panel it was. I think it was Lucasfilm or something. He called out the toxic bros. I was like, you calling them out? He was like, when everybody can have an opinion, now everybody has to like everything, but then you get these toxic fans and I'm like, he's calling them out. I was like, let me look who's feeling uncomfortable here.
Yeah. But that just reminded me of, how much Ahsoka was disliked when she was first introduced, and how that, she and Omega are roughly the same age when they're first introduced, and how a large portion, or maybe not a large portion of the fandom, but, a unfortunately loud portion of the fandom, are men who can't deal with the fact that a young girl is the focus of a story. And I mean, I just love, I have, my complaints about some things that Dave Filoni does and choices he's made. But one thing I always really like is that he says that the Clone Wars is about Ahsoka and Rex, and the two characters that were introduced for that. And I love that the focus is around especially a young girl for that series, and that's what he always viewed it as. And then for the Bad Batch, we wouldn't have this story if it wasn't for Omega. And I'm glad that they continue to do that despite the negative reactions that Ahsoka got when she was first introduced.
Yeah.
It's like they're really like, we're sticking to this, we're not going to veer away from it, and I like that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I've heard the argument where people talk about, well, Ahsoka was a kid, so you're not supposed. It's okay if I didn't like her because she was a bratty kid, but like, so is Ezra. So is a bunch of people.
So
like,
were we. We were
so
kids.
were we. Yeah, they're a kid. That's fine.
Anakin, hello.
Exactly. Like, people will come up with any excuse just to not like a female character sometimes, I feel like. And it's just, anyway.
Yeah. So that was our mini event session. I hope it was a little, good for you as it was for me. But moving on to some of the, moving to some final questions. But what would you like to see change or improve in Star Wars, either on the screen or page and books and comics, or in the fandom, or both?
I'll start. I think the comics are doing great. High Republic's doing amazing. I think there's a lot of really good improvements and people who really care. I think the Acolyte has a lot of potential. Leslie's going to be really amazing, I think. So I'm excited for where they're headed. I'm very passionate, just in my own life, separate from Star Wars, about diversity in storytelling, and specifically in the boardroom. And I think that all of this it's important to have diversity. It's supposed to have different types of perspectives in front of the camera, behind the camera. But the people who greenlight all this stuff, the people who are up at the top, that is crucial. And it's generational. And I could talk about this for a super long time. But what I would love to see is people stepping down, or that's not me calling for anybody to step down. I'm sorry.
Saw the fear in your eyes.
Not what I'm saying. Shit, I'm so sorry. I'm not saying that. I'm trying to say that there are a lot of people out there who deserve a seat at the table. And there are a lot of really talented people out there who are trying. And so I think it's really important for the people who have risen to the top to bring those kind of voices up with them to the summit. And I think that once they get people who are in the room who can greenlight more projects like this and more perspectives, it's going to trickle down, and it'll change everything from the fandom to, everything.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'll step off my soapbox. I love Kathleen Kennedy. That's not what I'm trying to say.
No, it's okay. I'll go off of that because mine kind of ties into that. And I'm going to read what I wrote here. But seeing Star Wars stick up for Moses Ingram really felt like a turning point for me. One that came too late, obviously, but it is something that I hope they stick to. Because they can't just keep throwing actors, especially actors of color, and especially female and femme actors of color, to the lions that are the Star Wars fandom, and not provide them with any type of support when they know exactly what is going to happen when these actors are announced. The treatment that Reva as a character and Moses as an actor received is still ridiculous today. It still gets brought up, but I feel like could have been a lot worse, especially from what we saw happen with John Boyega and Daisy Ridley and so many other, Ahmed Best especially, that it could have been a lot worse if Star Wars and especially Ewan McGregor hadn't said anything, if they hadn't taken that stance and really publicly been like, we are not condoning this. If you say stuff like this, know that Star Wars is not behind you on that. And it's something that is, we can talk about how far that goes, but I think it does a lot to show just people that they have support behind them, and that, if John Boyega wanted to come back to Star Wars, that he would have the support he didn't have when he first was there. And so I hope to see more of that, not just, on social media, but actually actively being implemented into contracts and into the way that the studio works from the ground up.
Yeah.
I would like to see more full steam, like full frontal. Let's go full on, like let's just get adult Star Wars, man. Let's go
Yes.
for it. Let's get Wookiee Holiday Special 1/900 number, like
with Chrysanthemum, please.
Yeah, there you go.
like, no, I mean, no, I would love to see. I think I do love the fact that we're exploring more adult themes with Andor, but I do want to kind of, we're towing a line. They're getting there. They're trying to dabble in. They want to. I can tell. I can tell. We're so close to our first F-bomb. I can feel it. I kind of just like, I kind of want us to just sort of go ahead and just, I feel, I understand the struggle. I understand why they don't want to, but the universe is vast. The galaxy is vast. We've got a lot. There's a lot of space to cover.
Mm-hmm.
We've got everything from the Star Wars is for everybody. Everybody's a lot of people. And that doesn't mean that every piece of Star Wars material is for everybody. That means there's something in the galaxy for everyone. Yeah. So I really think, like, I don't mean like let's like go full like triple X. I mean like let's just go ahead and let's not be afraid to continue down the path that they started with the Book of Boba Fett. Not to be such a stan, but I truly loved the Book of Boba Fett because they fearlessly started telling a story about aging, about facing your own mortality, about facing the limitations of one's own mortality. And they used one of the most iconic characters in the Star Wars universe to do that. And that was such a bold choice. And it was such a punch in the gut for so many characters that so many Star Wars fans that they revolted in such a big way. And that's why so many people hated it. But I want people to go back and rewatch that after watching all of these shows, and they will feel it so differently. Because they will understand the message that they were trying to tell, and they will understand that what they're saying is like, yes, you man in whatever age you are right now, like this was yes, exactly. Like Boba Fett was the most like self-insert badass character, and one of the biggest complaints was that he kept taking his helmet off. You guys,
why would you not want to see Tamara Morrison's face?
Exactly. Come on. That's the point. That's
the money.
Go back and watch the show.
He said it himself.
Exactly. That's the point. That's the point. These aren't shortcomings. These aren't failings. These people aren't stupid. It's not that they're stupid and they don't know what they're doing. You're not always the smartest person in the room. These are artistic choices. That's why this writer's strike is important. These people aren't dumb.
Yeah.
Sorry, tangent. Wow.
No, don't apologize.
No apology needed. Yeah.
Also support the writer's strike.
Absolutely. That's just not easy, man. And that's why it frustrates me so much when people get on the internet and act like it's just everything is bad writing, because also there's so many moving parts when it comes to producing a piece of media like TV or whatever. Like and also for most people, it's so difficult to decipher what's bad directing, what's bad writing, what's bad acting, what's bad blocking, what's bad cinematography, what was somebody editing something poorly, like what was a prop master fucking something up. Like it's hard to tell at any given moment what something was. Like if an editor had to change something because someone messed up a sound cue and then they had to cut something weird. Like it's so hard for people to notice what's weird about something or what's off about something, and they'll just always they'll chalk it up to whatever they don't like. So if it's like, if you don't like Bryce Dallas Howard, you'll say it's bad directing. If you don't like Jon Favreau, you'll say it's bad writing, you know. And that's always what it comes down to, and it's never actually the case 9 times out of freaking 10.
Yeah.
And so that's why this sort of stuff gets so messy and so dangerous and so frustrating, because people just start parroting whatever their favorite like YouTuber or whatever the frick are saying. And that's why tangent. But my whole point is writing isn't easy, acting isn't easy. Like all of this stuff, when you talk about trying to cast your favorite voice actor as the actor, or your favorite cosplayer as the actor, it's not that easy. It's not as easy as just looking the part. You have to remember lines. You have to remember blocking, like remembering the line while walking from point A to point B, also while on this soundstage, also while wearing this crazy costume, also while having all these, remembering what camera not to look at, remembering all of this stuff that's going on around you. There's 1,006,000 things going on at once when you're doing this sort of stuff. It's not as easy as just looking the part and remembering your lines. Come on, guys, get with it.
I feel like that voice actor conversation, like, oh, why isn't Ashley Eckstein live action Ahsoka if you brought like live action Bo-Katan? And it's like, if you actually pay attention, the people that they have brought in that were voice actors on those shows were also actors that are seasoned in other live action things, that are familiar with that format. And it's not to say that like a voice actor couldn't adapt to that, but it's not always what the project needs.
Absolutely. Katie Sackhoff has acted her ass off for 30 years or something like that. She is incredibly seasoned. And like, also, she's a great voice actress. She pops that helmet on and she is killing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's insane. Like she's incredible. And Lars, like, obviously that voice is hands down the hardest part of Thrawn.
Mm-hmm.
Like the visual part, they could do whatever they needed to do for that. That voice was going to be the hardest part no matter what. Mm-hmm. So like, come on. Rosario, like, everybody can get all the way out of my face. Like, anybody talking to me about, oh, you would be a good, no, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. Please do not talk to like no, yeah, like cool. Yeah, I can dual wield a saber. Yeah, I can act. Get out of my face. Please. I'll hoist myself by my own petard any day. No, I can't do it. Please stop playing in my face about being the lead in a Disney. Get out. Are you serious? Me? Huh? No. I could act for about a good scene and a half without having a panic attack. Are you kidding? I'm not leading a whole Disney show, bestie. Like, you're crazy. You're out of your rabbit mind. Like, I can barely make it through a song remembering the lines. I'm Marlon Brando. I need a cue card. I need a glass of water. I need somebody to tell me I'm pretty. Like, I'm not gonna. Bro. Like, like, no, like it's there. So I'm like on the brink of doing a whole TikTok video breaking down every single minute detail as to why Rosario Dawson is the GOAT for being able to do that role specifically. Because I feel like, as an Ahsoka cosplayer who is trained in so many of the moving parts that make that so freaking hard that I could actually piece all that together and show you that it's actually really freaking hard. And why looking the part's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I would love to watch that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Harith said it best, where he said, Harith was your biggest fan in the comments during this. Earlier he said retweet Nedra. Yeah. Retweet Nedra. Sorry. Yes. I agree. Yeah. Oh yeah, that about Boba Fett. Had no characterization until Clone Wars, and he was 13, so of course he would be different at the age of 41. Yep. People like to forget that, but yes.
Yeah, that's another thing I could talk about for hours and hours and hours, man. Just like I'm a really annoying Book of Boba Fett stan, but I think that is just a bold way to kick in the door for the live action shows, and they really went for it with that show.
I think that show will be one where people rewatch and actually enjoy much more than they did the first time that they watched it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I still think that it has one of the best episodes in Star Wars television ever. Episode 3, I think it was.
Was it 4? The one where it's
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah.
Now them giving us the Tuscan lore, I was like, that was
so good.
Premiere for me. I absolutely love that. Love that. Giving them more depth, giving them giving us just more than they were monsters. Because it was just all through Anakin's point of view, you know? And it wasn't like that. Anakin was just a hothead. And he was angry.
Imagine that.
That was brave. Except that was a bold move. I wish they had a better fate, but also at the same time, that also was important for this. Yeah, I know. This was like I wish they had a better fate, but also at the same time, I get it. Yeah, I do too. Like it's one of those things where it's like it's problematic, but you also get it like why it's important to the story too.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of like men generally, especially men in his age bracket, when they're given the gift of empathy, right? It only comes in a couple of ways, and it's usually like through like the birth of a child, specifically like a daughter, right? Or through psychedelics. And specifically in that show, he does the black melon.
Yeah.
And he has a psychedelic experience. And so he comes out on the other end and he has this like experience with the Tuscans, and he's like, oh, I have this like I'm a part of you now, and and he has all this like this he empathizes with them now, and he feels as if he's one with them now, and he has like this feeling of like empathy, but he still has so much ego and so much pride. And when all of this happens, that's when he truly experiences like ego death and all of this stuff. Like it's it's just this whole like, yeah, I should make a whole video about.
You should.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I would love to watch it. Don't apologize. No.
No, absolutely.
Fascinating.
No, I have a lot of feelings about Book of Boba Fett. Please continue without me. Thank you.
No. But for anyone who hasn't answered yet, what would you like to see changed or improved in Star Wars in general, fandom or the franchise? If there's any last ideas from that.
I think, and I want to say, Brooke, I think you made the comment maybe on Twitter, but seeing older female characters, I think is so important. And seeing, because obviously, yeah, as I think Kari said, we have like fans at every different stage of our lives, you know, and we become fans at different stages. I think for women, obviously, traditionally we've had like these younger women, and you're like, okay, that's cool, but it'd be cool to, you know, have like realize that we're more than just our age. Like we're not. I feel like age is such a commodity in Star Wars, and I think we're finally starting to move away from that. And so I hope they keep embracing that, but with characters who are also really badass, as opposed to like, you know, characters who like have a lot of agency, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah.
That's, I think, what has been some of my favorite things about the live action shows on Disney Plus is that they're almost all led by like actors that are like, I guess not your typical like young leads. Like if you look at, especially like the Book of Boba Fett, you had Tamora Morrison and Ming-Na Wen, who are like two like older actors and older actors of color, which is really cool. And then like you look at The Mandalorian, Katie Sackhoff is 42 or 43, and even Pedro Pascal is like older, and Diego Luna is like in his like it's just so cool to see all these and then Rosario Dawson as well. Like they're all, I don't know, I really like it. I think it's really cool. And I feel like it does, I got a lot of comments in that tweet that I made today, especially with like cosplayers or like people who felt like they were like not comfortable with cosplaying because so many characters are like teenagers, and it's like why am I a 35-year-old trying to cosplay a teenager, which is fine if you want to do that, but it's also cool to have that like representation in other characters that you can like continue to cosplay.
That's such a good point about the live action shows focusing more, like their main characters are older actors, older characters, because the only other live action we have are the movies, which when, you know, each time those start, those are younger actors and characters for each trilogy. And yeah, that's so important that they're doing that. And I hope it's a trend that continues. But,
well, we're gonna get it with Rey, the Rey movie.
Yeah, she's gonna be,
you know, she's gonna be much older. So that's gonna be really cool. Seeing her at that age being more mature, and like Nedra said, showing that adult conversation of aging and maturing and not being afraid to experience these real human things that we have to experience, you know. So that's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
This is where I pitch my Jocasta Nu series.
Little lady bazooka, like a whole thing in the comics.
So
I was like,
badass.
Kier saw a Jocasta Nu cosplayer at Celebration, and the light in her eyes. I saw them and I was like, "Where's Kier?" She was already taking a picture with her.
I was like, okay. And I was like, no, you don't understand.
Okay. So I guess this is a natural lead-in after the previous question, but what are you most excited about for as far as like projects go? It can be movies, books, TV shows, comics. Mine is two. I said one, but two, Ahsoka and the Acolyte for very different reasons. Ahsoka because I love Ahsoka and I'm very excited to see what's in store for her and her show, and Acolyte because High Republic. And Kier and Kari, I think, were both there in the High Republic panel at Celebration. And I think the only time I screamed louder than in that panel was at the Bad Batch panel. So that should say something.
The High Republic panel was awesome.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was really good.
They said they could hear us from the live stage.
Good.
When we were screaming. Yeah. So that was like across the way.
I think the same for me. I think the Acolyte, because I was able to, I went to the Lucasfilm panel, so they showed it there first. Listen, the way that I was like almost tearing up and just like I was with JJ and my other friend Nav, we were holding each other like, and we were like, this is not happening. Is this real? Like, are they really doing this? Just looking at it, the level of excitement that I got for that show, it was just because at the end of the day, I'm a huge Jedi, lover. Yeah. I love my Jedi. And see them at that point in time, still being, the height of the Jedi Order, still. And just the type of, bringing in this new storytelling with the Sith, because we really haven't had that in the shows yet. So that's a huge excitement for me, and I can't wait for that.
Anyone else?
Andor season 2.
I was waiting for it.
So excited for my ideology, like for lack of a better word, it's like ideology porn, competency porn, if you will, or incompetence, depending on which side you're seeing. But I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And Acolyte too, because I think Acolyte's going to bring a lot of kind of that grittiness into, a traditional kind of like Jedi Sith story. And I think I'm so excited about like this new, I don't know. I love like, it feels very grounded as opposed to kind of, and obviously like there are so many different types of Star Wars and different, obviously different shows for everyone, and people resonate with different things, that's like part of the beauty of the Star Wars universe. But I think it's going to be cool to get those elements in Acolyte, and then I'm just excited for my girl to come back in Andor season 2. So, and how horrible she is.
I think Acolyte Acolyte has a much darker tone, like a type of Andor type of mood. That is not just gonna be like Mandalorian, like like the campy Star Wars and everything, but it's more like level-headed and more like what Nedra wants, is a little bit more adult themed. I have a feeling that that's how it's gonna be, because the High Republic is more,
They did say that they had an intimacy coordinator, and I know
that's
right. More than just like sex things, but I'm just saying
you never know.
There goes Nedra just got happy. Let's go. But that means that it was serious. If they have to have an intimacy coordinator, that's because there's going to be a lot of serious, scenes and stuff. So,
yeah,
I think Kathy Kennedy said it was Kill Bill meets Frozen. Whatever that is.
Yeah, that's what Harris.
Yeah,
she said Kill Bill meets Frozen.
That's the Acolyte, apparently.
Yeah. Oh man,
that's amazing.
I'm looking forward.
Oh,
sorry. No, mine's easy. I'm looking forward to Ahsoka because Hera is live action, and I will cease to exist, and it's going to be amazing, and I cannot wait. But I'm also excited about the Dawn of the Jedi movie.
Yes,
I feel like
I keep forgetting about that.
Everyone keeps forgetting about it. That's fine, because there's
Kira's like, I won't forget about it.
I will not. It is my era. So I am very excited about that too.
See, that's another movie that again can bring a big possibility of being more adult geared. Because that's when it was like the Dark Ages, I guess, during that time when they're just about to discover the Force and stuff. So everybody's like more primitive.
That's so exciting.
Considering
that's so exciting. The more I think about it, I think I can't think about it because I'm just like, oh, all the possibilities. Like, we have no idea what that looks like in Star Wars, and so I'm excited for them to be able to play around with that.
Ahsoka. Shock.
Two faves in there.
I know the two wolves inside me. There's this one, and then there's the other one. And then, of course, Andor season 2. I really, really, really loved Andor season 1. You could see it back there that I acquired at Celebration last year. That was a very happy time for me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I couldn't go this year. It's
fine.
Oh,
no. We'll see you again.
Yes.
Some other
meetup. Diet Con. I mean, I don't know if you guys have heard. Element and Chocolate doing a little con next year in Anaheim, I think, or LA or something. So they're trying to do something in between the two celebrations, so we don't get like, super nostalgic. And
I feel like people keep forgetting there's time that exists between like celebrations. Like we could arrange a thing. Like we don't have to like. It doesn't have to be like celebration. But like, that's
what they're doing. It's called Diet Con. I don't know if you know Element and Choco.
No, I don't know. I'm not sure.
It's called Diet Con, and it's basically that they're just gonna put like a little type of con for anybody that wants to go, and we're gonna meet up in Star Wars and stuff like that at Galaxy's Edge and Disney World and Disneyland. So.
Yeah, that sounds.
Look out for that because it's like hopefully we'll be able to get together at least there.
Yeah, I don't know if I know those two people though.
I'm sure
I don't know.
But no, just Ahsoka and Andor. Are there any alphabetically non-A shows they have coming out?
No. and/or
So
acolyte.
true.
Well,
Wow.
the Bad Batch is still a
Bad
season
Batch,
Still.
three coming.
Skeleton
It's true.
Crew.
It's true.
Okay,
Right at the
that's
top.
good.
Oh yeah.
That's great, though, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I have two in the very near future. We're getting
Yes, I'm so
Survivor.
excited. Next week. Yay.
If you can't tell by the tattoos on my arm, I love video game storytelling. I'm like not a huge gamer, but like when the story's really good, that's like what I love. And I think the community on like TikTok and Twitter have gotten more people interested in the storytelling in these video games, even if they're not actually playing the games. They're going on YouTube and watching a gameplay. I saw that a lot with like The Last of Us when it was coming out, and now I'm seeing it more with Fallen Order because people are like, oh, Jedi Survivor's coming out, or they wanted to read Battle Scars, so they're like going back through. And I think it's cool because it's such a cool like way of storytelling. And I'm like, I can't explain that. Like, I played as this character for hours. I am them, and I love them, and they're my sweet baby angel. So I'm very excited, obviously, for Survivor. And then in the far future, we're getting fucking Daisy Ridley back.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like I feel selfish because it hasn't been that long since Daisy was in the sequels. Like, we didn't have to wait as long for, like Ewan McGregor
Like to
coming
come back
as
Yeah,
Obi-Wan.
to come back.
Or some of the other prequel characters to come back. Like, I didn't have to wait as long, but just like after seeing everything that she had to go through, and that Rey goes through as a character every single day, even now we're like 4 years past these movies coming out. I think it's so cool. And like that entire day that after she came out on stage, I like every time I thought about it, I started crying. I was like, I love her so much, and it's so cool.
And she looks so good.
She does.
She looks so good, and
looks
she looks so
amazing.
happy, and like the
Yeah.
crowd cheering for her, it just warmed my heart like so much that she. And it's nice that like hopefully she is not going to experience the same level of like hatred from the fandom for longer, like someone like Hayden Christensen did, because people
Yeah,
didn't
no
like
way.
the prequels, and now he's finally seeing the fans appreciate him.
Yeah.
And
She's got such a strong
Yeah.
support system
As
already.
tough as social media can be, I also think it can help, because
Yeah.
a lot of the
Yeah.
prequel hate gets forgotten by a lot of
Yeah.
people. They're like, oh no, the people always liked them. It's like, no, but that's just because we don't have like screenshots of all of these,
Yeah.
all of the
Yeah.
hate that went on at
And
this
we
time.
do though. What's
now.
wild is we do.
And we also
There's-
do.
Yeah, there's prequel memes on Reddit. Like that's a
Yeah.
whole.
Oh, I hate that one.
Or the force.net if you're like an old like me. Yeah. Or like the People versus George Lucas. Like that was a movie.
Oh my
Like,
God, that
yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
glad that
I'm
she
happy
did
that they brought Daisy to Celebration so she
Yeah.
Mhm.
could feel it for herself, that she
Mhm.
is loved, that she has support, and we are happy to see her back. I think that was
Yeah.
very important for her to feel,
Yeah.
I feel
instead
like
of just seeing it online,
I feel like seeing the love that like Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen got last year also was maybe a deciding factor for her choosing to come back, or choosing to come to Celebration at least, because I feel like they were welcomed so much last Celebration and this Celebration too, but more so last because of Kenobi. And so hopefully she saw that like
I love
Yeah.
that.
there are
Yeah.
good people out there still.
Yeah. That's good. Wow.
Well, I know that Kier has to leave in a little bit, and we're just at the end. If you need to go now, you can.
I do. I love you all. This has been
I love you guys too.
Yes.
I get these
We
kids
love you.
situated.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, please go.
Aw.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I just want to say a thanks to all my fellow panelists, everyone listening, and to Chris and Luke at the Padawans podcast for having us on here. Thank you so much. I had the greatest time talking to all of you.
Likewise.
Yay.
Love you all.
Love you guys. I love you.
Bye.